baby. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this exciting interview that we have here. This is with a young up-and-coming comic here. This guy has got extreme talent. He's been someone that since I've met him years ago has shown very, very big talents that he's got and an ability to do things that many people only dream of. He has now decided to take his talents into being a stand-up comic over the past few years. So without further ado, we give you Chicago's own Jon Torres. Jon, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Of course, sir. It is our pleasure here. Now, for those that don't know, Jon is out here trying to do his thing. So I know him, right? And then but not all of you guys do, right? So, Jon, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself and what really got you down this path to start wanting to be a stand-up comic?
Oh man, so it started back in like 2014. I always wanted to do something with stand-up. I used to play music, played around in a lot of bands, traveled and stuff like that, did some cool stuff. But there was always something alluring about stand-up comedy. And when I started doing it, I was terrible at it. And it kind of reminded me of like the same passion I used to get with like skateboarding and stuff. And, the ability to fall on your face and keep trying to do something. It's kind of that same drive and stuff. I liked it. I liked falling down and like, I could do this better. I'll figure it out. And then over time, I got addicted like immediately, because when you do it here in Chicago, there's like 5 to 7 open mics you can hit in a night. So I would just stay out late all the day. Oh yeah. And we would just go from one to the other, just being bad at it. Me and a couple friends that I started with, and we're all still friends to this day. A couple of them stopped doing stand-up. A couple of them are actually doing big stuff now. So it's kind of like, everybody gives and takes, and you see what you get out of this thing.
And that's awesome. So I have to ask, so people have a general idea of what your comic style is. So who are the comedians that you feel like, it's the basic question, of course, everybody's going to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
Who are the comedians that influenced you, right?
There is, it's actually, I forgot to tell this in the intro thing. So I was coming back, I was taking my cousin, I went to go take him to see some bands that are kind of big that I knew at like the UIC Pavilion. And we came back, we were hanging out at my apartment, and I just threw on Comedy Central, and I saw this guy, his name was Kyle Kinane. And then I found out that he was originally from like the western suburbs of Chicago. I think he's from like Downers Grove or Addison or something like that.
I did not know. Downers Grove is right my area, man.
Yeah. And he was actually the voice of Comedy Central for a while. And then I did some like digging and stuff, and I just found out that he used to like be here in the Chicago comedy scene. And then I went and saw him live, and that was the kick in the ass that I needed. I was just like, okay, this guy kind of reminds me of myself a lot. Like, he likes the same type of music. We kind of dress the same. And I was just like, this is cool. I want to do this. So he's a big influence on me. Tom Segura, who I saw last night, is hilarious. Anybody that's a good storyteller. That's what I love in stand-up comedy. There's so many different styles. Like the New York style of stand-up is so like, it's quick. I'm not like that. I like taking people on a ride and a story and stuff like that and tying things back in. That's what I really like. Matt Bronger is the same way. Even like older comics like George Carlin, I always loved because he was a storyteller. Steve Martin, like all that stuff. But I think it really just came from like, I mean, guys, we're probably all products of the 80s and 90s, like TV shows, man. Some of the funniest stuff, like even the crappy sitcoms back then, funny. They were good. And I think if it wasn't for like The Simpsons and Seinfeld, I would have never known, my ass from an elbow as far as like telling a joke or like the way to like structure a story, even old South Park episodes. And then you get into weirder stuff like Adult Swim. Like, remember that OG, the OG Adult Swim before Toonami, or like in between Toonami. Yeah. I was like, oh, I got my nerd stuff and I got my weird comedy stuff. Absolutely, I'm set. I'm gonna sit here till 4 a.m. and watch weird cartoons and stuff.
So that means then something like what they've done with Human Resources and with Big Mouth has to be right up your alley then, right?
Oh, absolutely, man. I love the show Big Mouth. Anything that like Nick Kroll and John Mulaney touch, I absolutely love it because those are guys that still keep a lot of like the old school style of comedy alive because they don't think in just being funny. Like they're like, we're gonna do musicals, we're gonna figure out ways to write catchy songs, we're gonna figure out
Mhm.
ways to write memorable characters and stuff like that. I think that's what a lot of TV shows now is. I think that's why they fail, is they're not getting those memorable characters like when we grew up. Like, dude, even like I'll talk to some of my friends and it's like I'll still remember, like it was such a short-lived show, but like I'll still laugh and think of stuff from the PJs back then, like the stuff Eddie Murphy used to
Oh,
write.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
oh,
show,
one of the best.
dude, it was so funny. And I remember like being a kid and like I grew up with a single mom, so I was a latchkey kid. And I would just hang out in my garage and like skateboard, but we had an old crappy TV in there, and it had like 3 channels, and Fox 32 and WCIU were like 2 of the
Oh,
channels.
yep.
They would show all the old TV shows. Like I'll talk to people at like jobs that I have that are like 50 years old, and they're like, what do you mean you know about Smokey and the Bandit? I was like, oh man, I know everything about Smokey and the Bandit. It's like Chips. You want to talk about Chips? I know way too much about reruns.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I've had the same conversation many times where it's like, wait a minute, how do you know about that? You're too young for that. It's like, nah, bro, you gotta understand. At one point, I only had local TV, so you had to watch what was there.
Exactly.
I can relate. I love that. It was always like the PJs and Jamie Kennedy. It was like all that stuff. Like,
Yes, dude.
it's like, yeah, that's amazing. That's very amazing.
I always
So-
laugh when older people are like, "You're an old soul." It's like, no, I grew up poor. That's what that is. I grew up. I didn't have any money for cable until we got a black box from the flea market. So that's.
Man. Oh man, I love it. I love it. What was you gonna say, Daryl?
I would say like like the storytelling. I like that. So like you'll lead somebody in, like get into like a whole lead up to the punchline type stuff. I like that because that actually gets you in and actually just springing on the punchline like instantly. Like I don't get no enjoyment. That's like a minute remembrance versus you give me a whole clean story and I can like replay that, like tell that to another person. That's what I like.
That
Really
dude,
enjoy that.
That's a huge thing of why I love telling stories. Not only that, is that people will take your story and figure out ways to relate it to your life. Is they'll pick out, it might just be 1 or 2 out of 20 things that I'm talking about in one story, but if they can latch onto one thing, I got them. They're in. That's what I like doing. And like in comedy, one of the things to say is like your silence in between punchlines is super important. Like a lot of comics say that, and that just means the room is listening to you, and they're like, "Where's this going?" And it's cool when it's like a room of 300 people, and you're about to set something up, and it's just pin drop silence, and you're like, "I'm gonna get him. This is awesome."
That's
So I
great.
have to ask, what influenced this story? I don't want people to know the joke, but how did you get to the joke of the son having your son that's not really your son?
Dude, that's a real story. Like,
So that came from real for real. That was happening.
yeah, dude, a good majority of my jokes are all like stuff that really happened to me. And that was something like this. My girlfriend just kept getting these phone calls over and over and over again. And I was just like, you know what? I think I'm going to solve this problem the way that they will never call you back. And it blew up in my face immediately. And I was just like, well, at least I got something funny out of this.
I'm gonna say, people, I'm not gonna tell you the joke. Go
Mhm.
watch it. It's on his YouTube page. Follow him. It is Jon Torres, JONTORRES. Go follow him. He's got the joke up there. I'm not giving you the punchline. I'm not gonna tell you what happened, but it is absolutely hilarious. I was dying laughing. I watched it again. Your newest one that you put up on Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
I was watching it and I was like, oh, I like this. He's actually literally pulled this all together over the routine because I've seen the originals that you had and then you've kept adding. It's like this is a beautiful thing he's doing here. I like it a lot.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So I have to say, it takes an extreme amount of courage to be willing to stand up on the stage and be a stand-up comedian. Because like you said, right, you had to go around, you had to get your ass kicked basically being bad for quite a while, for your time, whether it was short time, long time, all comedians have to go through that. So it means that you have to have an extreme level of courage. So what are the things that early in your life that you think helped shape you being this person that is willing to just say, fuck it, man, I'll do it. I don't care. I'm not afraid.
I think, oh man, that's such a tough question, because it's like,
I
you
told you I was
think,
going to pick your brain.
yeah, man, because it's like, it's funny when you talk to a bunch of stand-ups, we're all a bunch of idiots, and we're like, we got nothing to lose, and I think that's where a lot of that comes from. But I think it definitely comes from a childhood of like being picked on a lot, being a nerdy person, and I was never afraid to like the stuff that I always liked. Like, I didn't care if other people didn't like.
That's beautiful.
I see a pro wrestling belt back there. I'm a huge wrestling fan, but we're lucky we grew up when that was pop culture. But like like later today, I'm going to watch Japanese wrestling in Villa Park. I'm going to the Windy City
Oh,
Riot.
nice. Oh, you're
And
going. Oh,
yeah,
one of my
Oh,
boys
my
is
God.
going too, as a matter of fact.
yeah. Sorry to make the podcast not evergreen, guys. This will probably be.
Listen, you're
Hey.
fine. You're fine.
You're
Trust
good.
me.
You're good right now.
I would rather have you be yourself than to try and be someone else. The reason
Hell
I
yeah.
wanted, the reason why we brought you in is because I know you're an interesting person because you are you. But yeah, like you were saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You were
Oh,
saying
no.
it goes back to the things that you were exposed to as a kid.
Yeah, man, like being forced to grow up real quick. Like when you have a single mom, you get exposed to a lot of the real world stuff that you probably shouldn't, not saying shouldn't experience, but like usually you experience like when you're like in your teens and stuff like that, but you experience it as a kid and you kind of see the way the world is working and you're like, oh, this is how things really are. I'll just say whatever's on my mind because it really doesn't matter. And I think people either look at you as an asshole for that or they respect you. And I think it's just the way that you come across with it. And it's the same thing. It goes back to doing comedy is you can either come off like a cocky jerk or you can come off like a genuine person up there. And I think that's what a lot of people have a problem with.
I will say for sure, you come off very genuine.
Thank you.
It is you who steps on the stage, and I think that's what I appreciate, right? Because as a person who tries to do their own stuff, who tries to create their own content, right? We got our
Yeah.
whole team together for ITC. People don't get that it does take a level of courage just to be willing to put yourself out there.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
on top of that, then trying to refine your craft into making it better, it becomes a challenge because it's consistently you challenging yourself, right? So you started off, you said you had to go to a lot of places and be bad. What was the biggest challenge that you found as you were going and doing this? You were getting your experience in. What was because I know a lot of times people have mental hurdles, right? Where when you're doing athletics, right, it's always something, hey, I got to push through this workout. I got to be mentally strong enough to push through, go harder. What is it that for you was the biggest hurdle? The one that you were like, man, once I know I can get over this, I feel like I'm on the other side. Because to me now, in viewing your content that you just put up, I can see the growth and confidence in you. So what was that hurdle for you that you were like, okay, I got something here?
I think it's just getting the validation that's correct. You can know something is funny, but it's funny to you. You have to figure out how to make it funny to others and then how they can relate to that. And that's still a challenge to this day. I've been doing this for, I've been going on like 7.5 years. And I think the biggest challenge is knowing that, there's a quote from another comic is that every night's an away game, is that you don't know whether the crowd's going to respect you or just not like you from the way that you look. And it's fucking weird because you can come in, you can be as confident as you want, but you don't know how it's really going to go until you're up there. And I mean, I still have that problem now, this far in. Sometimes you bomb with stuff that works, and it could just be the night, it could be the people, it could be you. You could be off and you don't even realize it until you listen back. But I think the biggest hurdle is you have to discipline yourself because it's not like a job in the beginning. It's like being an independent contractor. You're like, I'm only going to get as much as I put into this. So you have to go out every single night when you're new and you see what other people are doing. You can go and talk to more experienced comics and pick their brains. And then I think one of the biggest things is always do stuff that you're not ready for. That's a huge thing because you don't know if you're actually ready for it until you do it. It's just like, sports and athletics and stuff like that. It's like, well, I don't think I could jump over that. It's like, well, Let's try and find out. And if I fall on my face, I know what to do to practice to get back there the next time and do it better.
So you would say the biggest thing for you was when you realized, hey, I have to always put myself in almost a level of discomfort just to make sure that I'm making sure I'm progressing. So I'm not just staying stagnant. That was your thing, was like,
Yeah.
hey, that was the big reality for you. Okay. Okay, that is fully understandable.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times that is a challenge for people, right? Is that putting yourself in a level of discomfort to try and make yourself better. There's not everything. It's not something that everyone's comfortable with, right? There's been a study that came out over the past, I think it was about 2 years ago. And it showed where essentially when people are wrong in their mind, right, it triggers the same reactions as physical pain. So same reactions as someone stabbing you, punching you in the face, whatever. It's the same thing in your mind is being wrong. So a lot of people, they run away from the pain. So what gives you the ability as a comic to say, I'm not going to run away from the pain. I'm going to run to it and say, I'm going to look it right in his face and say, fuck you. You have no control over me.
I think that comes to ignoring your fight or flight response that we have as human beings, is that you put yourself in this level of discomfort so much. And I think that also comes from, and if you ask a lot of comics, they've always been the type of people that end up in uncomfortable situations and have had to figure out a way to dig themselves out and not let it break them down. There's people that get into that fight or flight response, and before you know it, you're punching somebody in a bar and you're getting arrested, or you keep your cool and run your mouth and try to just, you're like, oh, this is the end of the world. And then if you wait 15 minutes, you realize it's not the end of the world. It's one of those things. It's all like mental Olympics. And then some days you lose and some days, you're on the podium.
Yeah, look, man, but the challenge is always being willing to go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I say, hey, being a stand-up comic, I know for the people that are in it, and this is one thing I've learned from just having conversations with people that will do stand-up comedy, you guys don't necessarily realize how almost batshit crazy you guys are for being willing to do this, right? Like I love your skill set. I love what a comedian can do. I'm uber confident. I think anybody that's met me will tell you, hey, I have confidence in myself. But I don't even think I got enough balls to go up there and try and be a comic. Like that is some serious, you can be sitting there with crickets in the room, and that's awkward for sure. So I have to ask, I know every comic's got one. What's the story that you went and bombed that you can go back and laugh at now and be like, holy shit, I can't believe it went that bad?
Oh man. So I got a couple. One of them's recent. Like I went out to do this show. I'll do the recent one and then I'll do the old one. Is that I went out to do like a show in I don't know, it was basically like the border of Wisconsin. And it was like a Mexican cantina. And they normally do comedy shows once a month, and they wanted to start doing them once a week. And this they didn't shut the TVs off. They barely turned the sound down, and you're just doing jokes over people that are just talking and having dinner. Like anything that's like an ambush comedy show is always bad news. But I think the worst I ever bombed was when I had a chance to it was like one of the first times I ever did a comedy club. And I won't say which one it is because I go back there pretty often. I don't want them to think I'm shitting on them or something.
No need. We ain't gotta call out no names. You're good.
But there's some of the south side of Chicago is quite a lot of hillbillies and stuff like that, and they don't have the same views as me. And yeah, just a little bit. And I was like, you got a Confederate flag? I don't think you know how maps work. But anyway. I'm like, dog, do you know where you are right now? It's okay. But
a little north of the Mason-Dixon there.
just
a few miles off.
Yeah, just a couple clicks away for the boys, if they know what I'm saying. But I was like, oh, this is great. It's one of the first times I'm ever doing a comedy club. I'm going to make sure that I do this right. And I get up there. They immediately don't like me. And I start bombing immediately. It was the longest 7 minutes of my entire life. And about 4 minutes through, I still have the recording of it somewhere on like one of my old phones or like my recording devices that I listen back to. Somebody threw a beer at the stage at me, and you can
Oh no.
you could hear it like hit the wall, and then it's even worse because like the stereotypical stand-up comedy room is always like a brick wall behind you,
Mhm.
but it was just fucking wood painted like bricks, so you could just hear it hit the wood, and you're like, that's not a real wall. That's not. I have no protection between me and these like 20 savages that are in this comedy club on a Tuesday night. But I've had to like pull people off because like everybody's talking about this stupid like Will Smith and Chris Rock thing, but like stuff like that's been going on forever. Like I've had, especially like when Trump was in office, like you know, you get a couple you get a couple patriots in the crowd, they get a little they get a little too tuned up. And I've had to like, well, because I'm a little bit bigger of a dude. Like I'm not like jacked, but if I got a coat on, I'm intimidating because I'm like over 6 feet tall, and I just had to like stand in between like just some big fat redneck dude yelling at like a 5'2" girl on stage, and it's like, just get your shit together, man.
Hey, but you know what the best part is? If it was you up there, he wouldn't have been willing to yell at you like that, because he would have thought twice. He'd have been like, wait a minute, there might be some knuckles that come with that. So I think I'm going to stop.
I got yelled at before. Everyone's like, oh shit, it's Lil Dicky. And I was like, you guys got to stop saying this shit. Because I do. Because I was like, I do not have his bank account. I wouldn't be mad about it if I had his bank account.
Hey, look. It would be nice, right? That's why you're going to get there, though. That's why we're talking to you now. So before you get to the point where you got a little Dicky money, I can be there when you get famous. I can be like, hey, John, remember me? Remember when we did the interview, bro? Come on and do another one.
And we'll hang out and smoke weed. It'll be like, oh, we'll just chill out.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So when was that moment for you that you saw stand-up comic and you were like, that's what I got to try next? Because like I said, like you said, you had previously done, you know, music. You were kind of, you had your ventures in a few different places. What was the moment that was like, this is it. This is what I really want to do? Because like you said, you're 7 years in now. So that means that is something you've made a decision on that. And this is what you really want to chase. So what was that for you? Because as a person with many passions, I understand how it can be to sometimes be like, okay, wait, we got to put this on the back burner and I'm going to focus on this now. I'm going to focus on trying to make this as good as I can. So what was the moment for you?
I think when I started getting obsessive about it, because I had always loved comedy, even going back to like, I don't care if people make fun of me. Like everybody had a Dane Cook CD. Like I was like, this is.
Hey, I didn't. I never thought he was funny. I ain't gonna lie to you. I thought he was
all right, that's fair. You're one out of a million. Maybe I'm hanging out with too many white people, but
hey, at least you're willing to admit it.
Cuban guy that skateboards, maybe he's got a couple triple dozen white friends. But
just maybe, you know, you never would guess that, right? No.
Hey Bryce, what do you think about this? Like shit like that. But I think it was, I talked about it a little while ago when I saw Kanane do his Comedy Central taping of Whiskey Icarus. But then it was when I went to go see him live. That was like the deciding factor, because I saw him do his thing on TV. And I was just like, oh, I hope he does some of the jokes that I saw him do. They're really funny. I went and saw him do an hour of completely different stuff. And that taping came out, and I saw him 4 months later, and he already had a different hour. And I was just like, all right, these guys work so hard, and this is what I want to do. And it's crazy because I'm actually good friends with the guy that opened for him now at that time. And I work with him pretty regularly. His name's Marty DeRosa. And if you guys are wrestling fans, you guys might know Marty DeRosa from doing all his wrestling stuff. Yeah, that's my good bud.
That's wild. That's wild. We're gonna have to talk about him, and he's somebody else I want to talk to. I'm gonna get in your head, and we're gonna have to get together with that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, that I think that was it. And then you like, I've seen, like, I've gone to tons and tons of comedy shows before that, and I had always wanted to try it. But it's one of those weird things where you don't know where to start. There's no rule book for this thing. Is that it's a completely secret society. It's like the Juggalos without the face paint, and
and the weirdness.
yeah. Oh no, the weirdness is there, bro. Trust me.
Oh, that is true. That is true. We heard some stories over the past few years where it's like, oh, I guess that is there too, huh?
It's like a guy you see every week. Wow, he wears the same outfit and glasses every time. Good for this cartoon character. But and when I found where local comedy was, like I started just Googling stuff, and then like you go to talk to people. And the cool thing about our like community here in Chicago is that 9 times out of 10 you're going to meet somebody that's helpful and honest and true and cool, and they're like, you want to do this thing that we're doing, you can meet us here and here. Here's the thing to join on Facebook. And then it's like a whole new world opens up. And it's like when you're old enough to finally go to bars and see it. Like I remember going to bars, I remember going to watch open mics like before I started doing it, because I was so afraid I was going to be bad at it. I was just like, I got to see other people be bad at this too. Because like if you go into a room and everybody's just crushing, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to die up there. But it's cool to see people, they'll go and they'll try new things all the time. That's the point of it. And so sometimes it goes bad, sometimes it goes good. So I think the ability to watch other people just try, I think that was a big deciding factor for me.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So I have to ask, because one thing that's always amazed me about comedians, right, is as a person who has sat down and like tried to write material for themselves, like as far as not even trying to be funny, just trying to be able to present something to people that sounds cohesive, right? That doesn't make it sound like a madman. It can be very hard to get your ideas clearly and concisely onto like paper and get it wrote down and have that plan of action. So how long did it take you to really start developing like your first 7 minutes? How hard was that for you to do?
Oh man, you gotta work on getting a 5 minutes thing like first before you even go on to 7 minutes. Cause like, and even open mics are only 3 to 4 minutes long, because sometimes the list is so long. There could be 50 people and you could be stuck in the middle. So you're waiting, or sometimes if you show up late, you're going up last. And some people do it by just getting too drunk because they're just sitting at a bar waiting and there's nothing else to do but drink. But like, I don't really drink like I used to. So it's like, you sit there, you wait, you smoke cigarettes, you just chill, bullshit with people, or you just go on a walk and you're right. But like for me with writing, it was always real hard, because when I first wanted to go to college, I wanted to be an English major because I just love writing and stuff like that so much. But I'm not a big reader, because when I read books, it's only in my voice, and I don't like listening to myself. And so I like books on tape, man. It's the best. I don't got to hear myself talk.
Who you telling, brother? Look, I may do all these podcasts and shit, but good Lord, when I have to listen to my own voice back when I'm editing, I'm like, oh.
Why did I say that word like that? Why?
Yeah, like, why did I do this? Oh, no.
Like, there isn't even an O in this word. What was I doing? But man, I don't even know. I don't even know how to like really describe it. Just ask me the question again so I can think about it again.
No, just think, like, honestly, how hard was it for you to get to those first 5 or 7 minutes, right? How hard was that? Because look, as someone who can make music, right, I can do lyrics easily, but I can't sit down and write the lyrics. You put the music on in front of me, you give me the beat, you give me whatever it is, I can give you lyrics, but I cannot do it if you're saying, hey, I need you to write this down for me. So for me, I just wonder, how hard was it to say, I have to put this down and get this down and have it like the timing right too, because you only have 7 minutes. So how hard of an experience was that?
It's a lot of being bad at it. And you figure out, like, when somebody taught me they're like, record your sets so you can listen back. And that's how I learned my own jokes. Is I never really write. I write in my phone. I don't really have a lot of notebooks besides like if I have like my backup notebook in case I blank on stage, but it's only just one word that reminds me of like a 5-minute story. It's just a matter of like doing it over and over and over again. and learning what to cut out, what to add, maybe like add tags to something. So it's like if you have something that's funny, you can figure out 3 other jokes to jump off of it if people are already laughing. So you can figure out ways to do that. But it took a while. Like I did open mics for a year before I even tried to ask to do to do a first show. Is I wanted to wait for somebody to come to me, and it's like, oh, you think I'm good enough to do something? I'm going to try this now. I never really was one of those people that felt like something was owed to me. And now I put my time in, so I submit to shows all the time. But when I was first starting out, I was like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until I really get some sort of like recognition from anybody. And even if it's just, one of my peers or a bartender, then it's starting to go on. So I think it took me about a year to even have like a mildly doable 5 minutes. I'll never say it was like acceptable or funny because I don't even do any of those jokes anymore. But it just takes a lot of time, and you never really know when something is ready, because like I have some stuff that I've been doing for a long time that I'll still tune up or I'll tag stuff onto it just depending on how the crowd is reacting. Like I was doing a show in Milwaukee on Thursday, and there was a joke that I've been doing since like mid-pandemic, which is it's about going to the movies during the pandemic. And I just said something off the top of my head that absolutely popped the entire room, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm recording this so I can remember what I just said, because sometimes you just come up with stuff off the cuff and it's funnier than that. But like I don't constantly write or like go to open mics, because I feel like in order for you to write about life, you have to live your life. And if all you're doing is this one secular thing, is you're going to comedy shows, no one's going to want to hear stories about you hanging out at open mics. They're going to want to hear stuff that's relatable, like going on a picnic or some shit.
For like, since you being a comedian, right? So like how the sensitive time, like all comedians, like they have to watch what they say. Like you hear like the big comedians, they say one thing and someone have a problem with it in a sensitive time. Does that change anything about your own material based on how you give? Mostly it's based off of your actual own life versus giving out like an actual at random about giving another story. Does that like make a change at all?
That's a really good question, because I'm somebody that doesn't really censor himself, but I feel like I don't need to, because I'm a dumb person. I don't talk about touchy subjects. Like I'm not going to go up there and talk about trans rights, because I can't relate. That's not me. And like I got a lot of trans homies, and I'm like, I'm going to leave that up to you to talk about. I'm going to go up there and talk about the stupid shit that I'm knowledgeable at, like WrestleMania 99 or when Tony Hawk landed the 900. I'm going to talk about stupid stuff that is relatable to me. But like, there's some stuff, like I touch on like the Latino stuff and like being a white Latino and stuff like that. And Latino crowds, they eat it up. And I can get roasting on like Latino culture a little bit, but I never go too crazy about it, because if somebody just walks in, there's like, who's this widow dumping on Latino people? And it's just like, no, my dad's from Cuba. And you don't have time to explain that to people when you're on stage. They don't care. And I don't even think it's so much about censoring yourself. I think it's like, you have to ask yourself, like, do I want to be remembered for being offensive, or do I want to be remembered for being funny? And I would rather be remembered for being funny versus offensive. Like being remembered in the 90s for being offensive made people millions of dollars. But now you can't even talk about half that shit anymore, because people lose their minds.
Yeah, imagine the first episode of Dave Chappelle in this era.
Exactly, dude. And I think Dave gets a lot of hate from people because he does talk about touchy subjects, but I think he comes from, he's so knowledgeable. He's been doing comedy since he was like 18 years old. He put in his time. He did all of his shit that he needed to do. And I think he's at a point now where he's like, I got nothing left to lose. And if you don't like this, you could change the fucking channel. And I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, but like, that's the way that he does it. That's not the way that I would do it or something like that. But I mean, I find inappropriate things funny sometimes. Like I have one of the ways that I open up my sets when I go to like middle of nowhere rooms is like they see me, I got blue eyes and long brown hair. And like one of the first, I'll let it get real quiet. I'll be like, you guys think like some racism is still funny, right? And like people will like clap or laugh. People will clap or laugh. I was like, that was a test and you guys failed. Let me put this town on a list. And it gets them on your side because it's like, oh, he's making fun of us in a weirder way, but not like directly hating us. And then it's just about kind of like winning them over and like giving them a little jab for like, if you think that shit's still funny, I think I'll figure out a way to make you laugh without going there. That's the type of thing that I like to do.
So for you, it's kind of you don't feel the need to ride the edge because you're like, if I'm funny, I don't have to ride that line. I don't have to dive into waters that aren't for me. Like you said, you have trans friends and you're going to let them speak on their issues and you're not going to try to speak for them. So you're like, hey, I'm going to speak on what I know, what is truly, truly me, not what's popular at the moment or anything. So like you were saying, like you brought up with the Will Smith Chris Rock thing. The reason I didn't bring it up to you is because honestly, first off, it was just a grown man slapping another grown man and it just happened to be televised.
Yeah.
I see that on World Star every day. So this is nothing to me.
Exactly.
Right. So on top of that though, I don't find it that interesting. So for you,
me either.
when you see a moment like that, you're not like a comic that's like, oh, well, this is the moment I have to write a joke about this. You're more like, well, it's whatever. I didn't really find it that. I'm not going to talk about that shit.
Well, not only that is I was just like, well, here's the thing that everybody's going to be talking about. I want to be the one guy in the room that talks about something else, because after 20 people talk about the same thing and you hear somebody talk about something different, you're inclined to listen more. And that's why that's why I mostly do stuff about like my personal life is like, here's the shit that I find funny that's happened to me. Maybe it's happened to you. And this is what I did in the situation because I can be I'm not so much a jerk as I am a smartass. And it gets me in trouble, like in person. Like I get yelled at. I've been being a smartass. I've gotten punched in the head. And I fully believe not enough comedians have been punched in the mouth. And I was like, I look at some of my friends, like, you ever meet somebody that runs their mouth, especially on social media? And I was like, man, we're in a whole generation that's never been in a fist fight before. And a lot of these people, like, I don't care. That should be like a president's election campaign. But like, if you get banned on Twitter, you got to get punched in the mouth to get it back. And it's like, all right, take your licks, boys. Get in line. If you're gonna say some shit out of line, at least take a punch in the mouth for it. But I don't think like it. Here's my thing about the whole thing. He didn't deserve to get hit. That could have been handled a little bit better. But a lot more weird shit happens in the world than what happens to celebrities. It's such a microcosm of the world. Mm-hmm. And those are people that we can't relate to. Like if $10,000 went missing from their bank account, it would be like us losing a dime out of ours. They wouldn't even notice it. But if we lost $10,000 out of our bank accounts, I got to make some phone calls.
We got problems.
Yeah, I'm in the red. I'm in the red again, and this time it's not my fault.
hey, somebody might come up missing, baby. I mean, we got 10 G's just on my account. Yeah, somebody missing now.
That is
but
true.
yeah, no, I agree with you. That is one of the things that we try and stay out of the waters with that in ITC, right? Is that we try not to just jump on what's popular at the moment, right? We try and give you our take on the shit that we want to talk about, not the shit that everybody in this world is like on. Like it took us, it was 2 weeks in between what actually happened at the Oscars and when we talked about it. And our talk about it wasn't even necessarily hey, let's talk about this moment. It was, hey, do you ever want to have a woman that treats you like Jada does? Because that's the funny side. That's the funny side to me. It's like, wait a minute. She is the worst, bro. She is legitimately out here making this man's life hell. This man threw her a big birthday party. She hated it. Had a big old wedding. She cried walking down the aisle. I was like, yo, do you want a woman like that? So I'm asking you, John, do you want a woman like Jada?
I'm going to answer your question with another question. How much money does she have and how much money do I have?
I see. Smart man. I like where you're thinking. I like that.
Hey, babe, I'm going to fuck this 26-year-old dude. It's like, do I still get the keys to the Lambo? Because if I do, go fucking nuts. You go nuts. I'm gonna stay in this mansion and put my feet up watch some Kardashians or some bullshit. And
Just have a good time here.
Yeah.
You know? I'm just kick back and chill. You know, all this shit that you got in here for me to enjoy anyway. Fuck it. Whatever.
It's like, you see that fridge? That's full. I'm happy.
Like, hey, look, man. I'm gonna tell you what my homeboy said. Our other partner that does the show with us. America, y'all ain't gonna stop until you turn Will into an active shooter, huh? That's what y'all want. Y'all want this man to have to really hurt somebody because it's crazy at this point. But yes, that's why we don't get into that stuff either, though, is because it's like, hey, most of you people are trying to be self-serious about moments like that. For me, I'm trying to find the funny in it. I'm trying to find the comedy in that, where it's like, wait a minute, hold on. This man really on national television just walked up and slapped another grown man? Yo, hold on. Like Charlie Murphy said, when you used to do that shit, you got to duel. You got to draw pistols after that shit. What is this?
Like, dude, when all of that happened, like I wrote a new joke and everybody had their joke about Will Smith. And then I went up there and I told a story about bananas. So it's like, pick a lane. I'm going to talk about the weird stuff because during that same week, I went on, I work in the West Loop. I still have a day job and I do this comedy stuff at night. And I went for a walk to clear my head and I was eating a banana. And I'm walking around the West Loop and I go into the Jewel that's off of like Halstead and Milwaukee. And I walk in there. I didn't think anything of it because like I'm a dumb person and my brain is fried from work. I'm in total work mode. I don't think that it's suspect to walk into a grocery store with a banana. And I got stopped by security. He's like, "Did you steal that?" I go, "Yeah, man, I'm coming in here stealing 59-cent bananas. I'm risking my whole life to steal this dusty ass Chiquita." And and like that's the type of stuff that I write about. Just weird. I want to write about the human experience because I feel like in modern society, people don't want to embrace being human anymore. We're all very flawed. Everybody comes across on social media like they're doing well. And I know some people that are very well off on social media and they're miserable. They're miserable people. And I'm just like, it's all a charade. Like the whole world we're all carnies and some people are just really good at looking like the strong man and other people are looking good being the bearded lady. And I'm in like the bearded lady category.
No, I understand that fully because that is kind of to the crux of part of what I want to ask you here. So I think one thing that has happened in society is that people have kind of gotten a disconnect with how similar we all are, right? And how even though we all have kind of different dreams and stuff that we want to do, we all essentially want the same things. So with that being said, I have to ask, so let's just talk your dream. What's your American dream at this point in your life? What is it that you dream to have? What is it that you dream to get to with your comedy game?
I think like the pie in the sky thing is to like maybe one day do arenas. Like that would be so cool. But I know that's so far away is that like my dream is to just do this and have fun with my friends and have people leave a show thinking that I'm funny. And I'm totally fine with being a good traveling stand-up comic. And if something bigger happens, like I've tried making my own podcasts and it's so much work. So props to you guys for running stuff like this. But I just I want to eventually do all that, like find different ways to like different avenues and stuff. But I just want to, I would love to make enough money where I'm not rich, but it's just enough where I'm normal. Like if I could make what my day job salary is now and pay my bills doing comedy, I'd be happier than a pig in shit. I don't care if I'm rich. Like I'll drive a Toyota Corolla till the day I die and be happy about it because I came from so little. Like I remember being a kid trying to fix my mom's car, fixing stuff around our house that was falling apart because we lived in a house that's falling apart. Like I know it's silly to just stay humble or the world is going to humble you.
Silly.
but that's what I fully believe in. And I think it also comes from like growing up with like Catholic guilt. It's like you can't be too successful or the big man's gonna strike you down. And it's like, you're gonna be famous? I don't think so. So that's really all I want out of it, is just to make a mildly comfortable living where I could like be ahead on rent. And that's where I would be happy with it. And make sure my girlfriend doesn't leave me because she's cool. And like maybe like I don't even know if I want kids, but like even like if I could just make enough money to like have a kid and still do this, that would be huge, because I think it would be cool to like be with the kid throughout the whole day and then go do stand up at night. I think that'd be cool because I didn't have a dad. So like I would want to be the cool dad that I didn't have. I mean, I'm sure I'd still be embarrassing and they would think I'm lame as hell because that's what kids always do. But it's like, oh, look at dad out backyard skateboarding again. He's 47. Like,
Hey man, you know what? It can be very fun with the kids. Like I can tell you, my daughter's 16 now, and I'm sure there's some times where she looks at me and she's like, God, he's so lame. But then there's other times like where we go to the wrestling events and we're having a great time together, you know, like, so
yeah.
I fully understand what you mean. So I gotta dive in a little bit deeper into what you said though. So your dream is more so just enough to provide for, if you have a family, be able to provide for them while doing your dream. Your dream isn't necessarily, I need to make millions. It's, I want to be able to have a good life for my family.
Yeah. While you know the money and all that stuff would be nice.
Of course, of course.
I don't need that, because I feel like stuff like that makes us so detached from the real world, is then you can't like you can kind of see it with some comics that when they do like make it in that like heavy big stratosphere, they talk about stuff that's not so much relatable anymore. Like there's some people that stay down to earth, and then there's other people that can no longer really relate to their fellow man in a certain way. Like me, I'm like, I love the pandemic. I'm antisocial as shit when it comes to like doing stuff. Like I'm usually leaving
to the choir, baby.
Yeah, like if we're at a party and stuff like that, I'm like hanging out with only a couple people, and then I get my fun in and I leave by like 11:30. And I just like to chill. That's really all I want to do, is like I just want to do my own thing. And then like when you get to that level of fame, you always feel like you're disappointing people by just being yourself. And it's like, well, no, you liked me for me, and I'm sorry that I did something that you didn't like. I mean, I'll gladly apologize for it. It's not like I'm doing anything terrible, but it's like everybody's got their own 2 cents. Everybody's a critic, and I just wouldn't want to be in that spotlight. People try to make you feel bad for being yourself too often.
That is very true. And I think that's one of the things that I believe a lot of people struggle with in fame, right? Which is that you start heaping this expectation upon yourself that you have to be this or that instead of just being yourself. And I think that's one of the things that I respect very, very largely, especially in your case here, which is that you're not trying to conform for fame, for money, for any of that. What you're doing is you're saying, look, I'm going to present me. And if you love me, you love me. If you don't, you don't. All I care about is being able to take care of my family.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people in society now, that is how they feel. But the problem is that they don't realize that that person across from them that they're so polarized about, they probably have the same dreams as you for their family. And I'm not saying that, because look, man, I was a person, being perfectly frank, I fucking killed Trump for 4 years. Okay, 4 years of recordings, that motherfucker was getting killed by me. So I can't sit here and be like, oh yeah, don't criticize. What I'm saying is though, is that I never lost sight of that. And this is probably what the optimist in me, right? I know those people are still humans. Exactly. I may think they're fucking stupid, I may think that you're real dumb, but I know you're human. And I know that at the end of the day, you probably want the same things as me. So all that being said, I have to ask you, when you run into a situation, especially when you're out, whether you're doing your comedy or whether you're just out doing some scouting, trying to, hey, a friend's performing or something like that, right? When you run into a situation where you get someone that is, so diametrically opposed to you, how do you deal with them then?
Well, me, I'm confrontational as well. Is that I've always been a confrontational person. And I've figured out ways to kind of diffuse situations where I let that person talk until they either make a wildly good point, which 10% of the time only happens, or they just continue to bury themselves until everybody around them, they're like, fuck this guy. And that's why you wait. I think it's more important to listen to what people are saying, because the dumbest person is usually the loudest person. So let that dumb person keep talking, let them keep digging the hole. And then, I mean, it's kind of our jobs as stand-ups to listen and then figure out ways to either make something bad funny, or let this person dig a hole so bad that you can just go in and roast them completely off the things that they say. And it's even like not in the stand-up world, like out in public. Like if people want to be confrontational, let them be. And then half the time they're too exhausted from yelling and shit like that. And if you ask them, like, you let them get it all out, let them get it all out. This is my favorite thing to do. You let them get them all out and be like, all right, are you still mad? And then they fucking hesitate for a second. And I was just like, yeah, see, you're not mad anymore. You just wanted to yell and get out your frustration. Like, you still want to punch me in the face? And they're like, not really. I was like, all right, see you later. That's kind of what you got to do. You got to just kind of like let the big dog bark, but realize that it's on a short chain. It very rarely gets off the chain. And if it does, we got a lot of great lawyers out there right now. So let him hit me. Because I got punched in the mouth. I was like, congratulations, you just paid off my car. Thank you.
Yes, appreciate you.
They're like, wow, look at the jaw on this guy. I go, yeah, look at the check you're about to write me. Good for you.
Boy.
They don't want them problems.
I'm gonna have all types of mental distress. It caused me mental distress.
Yep.
So I will say, like, pretty much you made yourself have like a comedian code that you built for yourself, pretty much from all the experience that you've been going out to open mics and everything else. Like, you literally just built yourself a code, like a standard of how you want to move. Like how you said, you just want to be just in the, I don't have to be super rich, but I want to be to the point that I'm comfortable, that I'm not going to, like, I have to struggle to that.
Oh yeah,
sense of point.
Even if it comes to a point where I'm like, oh, I feel like I could do this full time, I would gladly embrace the struggle, because I'm like, I know how to save my money. I know how to, like, live super poor. I was in a touring band. And it's crazy that you said that, because every comic kind of has their own code. And a lot of us, like, if you look at like groups of comics that kind of all hang out together, they all have similar codes. And it makes it easier, because then you're the one bouncing off ideas from one another. And those are the people that actually help you more than hearing stuff back from people that aren't trying to do the same thing as you. Because it's cool to look at somebody that's famous, and especially when somebody does stuff their own way, but you're like, you have to remember, that's not you, that's that person. And if you're trying to be that person, you've already lost sight of who you are and what you're trying to do. So you can either be a C-rate version of the famous person, or you can be an A+ version of yourself. And I'd rather be an A+ version of myself than a C- version of some famous person.
Correct. It's like everything running off of your original run of just you. You're not like trying to be like a Kevin Hart, or you basing everything off of Dave Chappelle, or you're being Cat Williams. Like everybody has their tea, So like,
oh yeah,
it's just like, you can't, like, you see, like, if you see like a random person that they just want to go into the comedic game, no experience, not at all. They just go like basing off of how many people they watch comedians and everything else. It doesn't work out, because there's like, well, why don't this work? I seen someone else do it, but they're not actually. You can see when you're trying to make someone laugh or change their day, it's literally like, how much joke, how far does that take the other person when you're going to give it to them?
It's crazy that you said that, because when I feel like I'm just finding my own voice, kind of like in the past year or so, is where like I knew how to be funny, but I was like, you're still trying to always be somebody else. And if you watch a lot of comics that start off, they have a cadence, and the cadence is of whoever they think is the funniest. Like Louis C.K. was a big one for people, and stuff like that. But I think coming into your own it takes a really long time doing this, because you try to emulate what you see, and you're doing it subconsciously. You don't even realize that you're doing it. Is you're like, this is what I find funny, and before you know it, you're talking like I still see, like, I've seen some comics that are still kind of like Mitch Hedberg. I don't know if you guys remember Mitch, but like,
Yep.
Mitch was one of the best one-liner comics that ever existed that passed away too early. And there's still people that try to do that. And I'm not going to fault them for it, because you have to do that on stage. And then before you know it, you wrote a joke to say it like this person. And then if you do it long enough, you start saying it like yourself. And then that's when it either fails or it becomes even funnier, because then people see the real you and they're like, oh, this is how this guy really is. That type of stuff.
No, that's understandable, because I know when I try and be funny, like when I'm trying to crack somebody up, I know where I lean. It's Richard Pryor, Chappelle, Chris Rock, Martin Lawrence. I know exactly where I lean. Like, I know where it comes from, but I know what you mean, to where just in life in general, when you start telling the jokes and stuff as yourself and stop trying to be that person, you get a better reaction most of the time, right? People are going to feel that you actually mean what you're saying. And I think that's a big fight for a lot of comedians, right? Is that sometimes jokes get taken a certain way, or they're like, oh, no, that person doesn't really mean it. So when you tell jokes, are you always trying to make sure that there is some part of the truth is always in there, to where even if like you're exaggerating the story a little bit, right, to make it more funny? It's what you're supposed to do. You're a comedian. That's what your skill set demands, right? But even when you're doing that, do you always try and make sure that all your comedy is based in reality, not trying to be a fantasy world?
100%. 100% it needs to stay in this real world, because if it doesn't, there's no way people are going to relate to it. Because even when you're telling like wild drinking stories or smoking weed stories and stuff like that, you got to keep it normal. And even like weird stuff that happens to you, you have to figure out ways to keep it kind of normal and keep it as like the human process and stuff.
So I have to ask now, because you brought this up, and it really sparked my interest. So since you are a longtime wrestling fan, we're gonna make you our top 5 of this week, and we're gonna ask Jon's top 5 wrestlers of all time.
Oh man. Ooh. We're moving past. We're adding a face onto the Mount Rushmore. Hell yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the way we do it around here. We need 5.
Okay. Right off the bat, one of the first people that I can think of right away, in-ring persona and just charisma, just oozing charisma. I got to go with my man RVD, Rob Van Dam. Fantastic pro wrestler. Yes. Doing it. Yes, RVD. His match against Jerry Lynn in ECW, one of the greatest matches of all. Like, whenever anybody that's like, why do you love pro wrestling? I send them. I was like, watch this match. Watch this match, because
Hardcore Heaven.
It's Hardcore Heaven.
Hardcore Heaven.
Was that 97 or 98?
I think that was 97, because that was the first one. That was the first one.
And what a 97! What a year for pro wrestling! Because I'm just gonna segue right into it. I love that he's still doing stuff to this day. He's the reason I fell in love with pro wrestling. Sting's got to be number 1.
Bro, could you believe just like a month or two ago, when this dude's 60 years old, throwing his body off through tables onto someone, through tables? Like, you are 60-something years old, Sting, and you are a crazy man.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I watch wrestling together, and she's like, "Dad, don't do it." Like, she just sees. She's like, when I see a man that age, she goes, "I just think of my dad jumping through tables," and then it makes me laugh, and I just think of her dad. I was like, I can see your dad throwing somebody through a table. He's kind of.
Oh God! Oh man! I know we had to talk about it on the show after it happened, because it was like, yo, he really just threw his body.
Taking the bumps too, man. It's unreal.
He took a New Jack. That's what he did.
Yeah. See, and it's so tough because there's so many wrestlers where I think they're great for their personality, but they're garbage in the ring. And then I think of them like they're amazing in the ring, but like they're on the mic, it's like, I don't know. But if I got to go with other, like, I go off childhood because that's what made me just really fall in love with wrestling, even though I think the in-ring stuff is better now. I would have to go with, oh man, this is so tough.
Yeah, see, that's why I gave it to you. I knew it'd be tough because any wrestling fan, it always starts off easy, but then it's like, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second. Now it's getting tough.
I think I got to go with Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero. Even his old stuff in WCW, Eddie Guerrero was just such another animal. Like
him and Rey Mysterio.
That match at Halloween Havoc between him and Mysterio, one of the greatest lucha matches of all time. I also loved that WCW kind of ripped off ECW around that time because ECW was bringing in luchadors and then WCW followed suit. But WCW had that TV reach. So, that's the first time, you're seeing that as a kid. You're like, this is so fast. It's like a train wreck. It's so cool. And then as far as like stuff that's just electric, I got to go with The Rock. The Rock did something so special. And I feel like part of me is kind of mad at him that he left to go pursue acting because I feel like every year he makes the same movie with different characters. And I'm like, well, he's getting paid. Also, the only man to ever look more like a wrestler when he stopped being a wrestler. That's such a weird flex to go out on. Be like, yeah, I'm not in ring anymore, but I got bigger arms than Hulk Hogan was in his prime.
Oh my God. Oh, it's so true. It's so true.
And then it's got to be, oh man, it's got to be a tie between, because I mean, Stone Cold's up there. The stuff that Stone Cold did was just so iconic and memorable. But it's got to be a tie between him and Shawn Michaels for the last spot. But I will say this: I think the two guys that go over Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels, I got to go with Bret Hart. Bret Hart was one of those guys. People looked at him as a dork, but a guy that had a mind for where the business should have gone. Bret was 100% right. Like the whole wrestling community should apologize to Bret Hart for like what we fell in love with in the 90s and the 2000s. It's like, and then Bret got his career literally taken away when he got kicked in the head by Goldberg. And
that's why I'll never root for Goldberg. That's why I boo
him
every time I see him and root against him every time. It's just boo.
I think the worst part about that match between Goldberg and Bret Hart was the last thing Bret Hart told that man was, please don't hurt me.
Yep.
And he ended his fucking career over it. Like, yep. I think Goldberg's just one of those meathead dudes that got over in wrestling because he had the look and he was presented right. But if he had to work from the bottom up, that guy wouldn't have been shit.
Well, let's be honest. His in-ring ability was awful. His mic work was awful. The only thing that really built him up was that WCW let him go on that super long streak for forever. If we're being honest, without that streak, Bill Goldberg is nothing because he doesn't have any like classic matches to fall back on because all of his matches, we want to talk about 5 moves of doom with John Cena. He was Mr. 3 moves of doom forever. Yeah. So,
and I will thank John Cena because John Cena kept my love of professional wrestling alive, but I wasn't a John Cena fan. What happened with me is I saw what the WWE at that time was doing. And I was like, maybe I don't like wrestling anymore. Maybe I've outgrown it. And because of that, I was like, I still like wrestling. So I went online and I found something called Ring of Honor. And if it wasn't for the way that they manufactured John Cena, I would have never found Ring of Honor. Like I went to so many iconic Ring of Honor, they weren't even pay-per-views. They were just big matches back then. Like I remember I was at CM Punk's last match before he went to WWE. I saw Dragon and Joe go for an hour. And like I had never seen anybody wrestle for an hour. And then because of Ring of Honor, I found out what New Japan was because they would do all the New Japan matches and stuff. And it's so I think John Cena, and at the end of the day, I respect the dude. I respect what he does. I think he's kind of a crazy person and a sociopath because who the fuck has an all White House? That's fucking crazy. That's insane. That's insane. That's insane. But
I
yeah,
don't disagree.
yeah. But yeah,
when someone has an all white house, I immediately think the movie Psycho. If you want me to be honest with you.
yes. And I'm like, oh, you just don't cook like that. If a person that owned an all white house came in and be like, I check it out, I'm making my pasta sauce. They're like, well, how did you get it on the ceiling? I'm like, don't worry about it, man. It's delicious.
You gotta probably, when you go in John's house, you gotta probably put on some white booties and a whole white like hazmat suit. You gotta zip up and everything. You ain't messing my house up.
Yeah,
Not
right?
today.
It's like, you having a COVID cleaning? No, that's my regular cleaning crew that come twice a week.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You think this place stays white like this on its own?
Mm-hmm.
Never. Oh God, but yes, I would say all of those are very solid picks. Funny enough, I seen CM Punk wrestle in a barn literally like down the street from here, like 3 times, I think.
Yeah.
Funny story. You ever see CM Punk? You tell that motherfucker to unblock me. I didn't even do nothing. I never spoke ill on that man's
Got
name,
blocked
bro.
by CM Punk.
Bro, dead ass. I'm blocked by CM Punk, and I ain't never said nothing ill on his name.
It's
I never
okay.
said anything.
He's kind of, I'll put it this way: when it comes to CM Punk, I'm a Colt Cabana man. Colt Cabana till the day I die.
And I like it.
And Scott's a real good dude, man. Like, we were playing, there was a comic softball game because Colt Cabana jumps into the Chicago comedy scene all the time because he does comedy. He's a comedy wrestler.
Yeah.
And he's friends with a lot of comedians here. And I showed up to play in a comic softball game, and he just shows up wearing a Dark Order shirt and an AEW mask. And I was just like, well, you're really repping the gimmick, huh, Scott? But such a nice guy, genuine person. I love Colt Cabana to death.
That's awesome. Yeah, but for real, I ain't never spoke ill on that man. So CM Punk, if you see this, come on, Phil, come on, baby, unblock your boy. I don't even be asking you for shit. I only said complimentary things of you, CM Punk.
I've been trying to up my video editing skills to send this to Botchamania, and it's I don't know if you guys are Botchamania fans, but
I definitely am.
Have you guys ever seen Beverly Hills Cop 1?
Yes.
So when they're in the strip club and Eddie Murphy's like, something's gonna go down, and he's talking to like Taggart and Judge Reinhold and those guys, and he comes out and he's like, Phil, is that you, man? I just want to be like, that's the reason why everybody gets blocked by CM Punk, is they just call him Phil. They come up to him like that. Phil, I knew that was you. I knew that was you, man. I knew that was Philip. Like,
oh man, that is awesome. That is awesome. Oh, but yes, no, I don't know what I did, but he blocked. Nonetheless,
he blocks
regardless,
man.
I know it's like, dude, like, why you hate so many people, bro? Like, it's not even that serious. Like, take a deep breath, my boy. Take a deep breath. You from Chicago, Phil? How can I not love you? Like, I'm a huge fan, nigga. I seen you wrestle when I was in high school, bro. Like, what do you want from me?
I was going to see my therapist. Also, if anybody's listening and thinking about going to therapy, go. It's easy.
Do it.
Find a copay. It makes everything a lot better. But my old therapist was off of Milwaukee Avenue, and that's where him and his wife live. Mm-hmm. And I saw him walking his dog, and I was outside smoking a cigarette before I went in there, and his dog was pooping. And I go, hey, man, you gonna pick up that dog shit? And he just laughed because I talked to him like a normal person. Like, he thought I was going to be like, oh my God, CM Punk. I was like, man, you gonna pick up that dog poop? and he just laughed and picked it up, and it was just so funny. Like, I knew he was going to pick it up, but I thought it would just be funny to kind of give him some shit about shit.
I like it. I like it a lot. So I have to ask, because I know we got to get you out of here on time, because I don't want to make you late for what you already having set up there. Have to ask this. Let's talk hypothetical here. You become famous from comedy. What are you going to use your power that you have in that fame to do?
I think a big one would be I'm actually working with the there's a skate park here in Chicago, Logan Skate Park, that's falling apart, So I'm actually going to be working with them on doing a charity fundraiser comedy show to raise money to rebuild the park.
You
But
make sure you let me know when that is, and as soon as you got any promotional material, you get it to me. We will share it over and over and over, my
oh,
friend.
that's awesome. Thanks, man. I will. But I think I just want to give back to kids that kind of grew up like me. I would love to start a thing where kids that grew up with single moms, like you do a seminar on how to kind of like, and it's not about like toxic masculinity, but kind of like how to carry yourself like a man, to not be piggish. Like if you're going to an interview, know how to tie a tie, or like
Yeah.
hook them up with a dress shirt and tie or a polo to go and like teach them how to interview and try to just better their lives. Because I think
Fair,
there's go,
fair
go
or
ahead.
unfair, we're still expected to be men in this world. Plain
Oh,
out
I
and simple.
know.
Whether
Oh, I
the
know.
rule, whether we agree with it, and whether we want to start changing some of that, as men, we are still expected to act as men. So I get
Yes.
exactly what you mean.
And even in that, like say if it's like a single, like they have a single mom but their son is gay, I would want somebody that comes from that community to be like, this is how you kind of navigate this, and you deal with people that are opposed to you for just being yourself. I would just want to love, I would love to start just something where it teaches, not even just so much teaches people, but like just teaches people how to embrace themselves and what to do. And there's so much stuff that kind of got left on the table when I was growing up, like learning how to shave, learning how to, when to go get a haircut, when to grow your hair out, like how to dress, how to conduct yourself in a proper business setting, stuff like that. But I think that that would be a huge one. And then just giving back to the community that was around. Like if I did get super famous, I would go and find like little league teams where people can't like afford to pay for stuff like little league or basketball or anything like that. Just be anonymous donor, boom, drop it in, every kid gets to play, like stuff like that. That's all I would want to do.
So you want to be able to do one of my same dreams, right? Which is be able to expose people that wouldn't have the opportunity to be exposed to something to that, so they can understand this is what it should be, this is what it is. Try and give them a little guidance, show them that there is more to this world than what is necessarily presented to them.
Oh dude, 100%. Also, like for as great as a country as we live in, it's still a broken system. We're kind of a third world country with iPhones and modern technology, and we just need to figure out a way to get people out of that slump that people get stuck in. And the whole idea of telling kids you could be whatever you want, it's like, well, you can be, but you have to figure out how to get out of this soul crushing debt, how to like teach the same plans to people that are given to like rich people. You know what I'm saying? That type of
Yep.
thing. Like rich people are given a roadmap to life, and they're always going to succeed because they have that to fall back on. But if you taught those skills to somebody that was not as well off, they would succeed, not on the same stratosphere as like a rich person, but they would be rich in their eyes. That's what I would want. Just helping people out. That, and I would want to, if I was ever rich, I'd want to open a women's shelter, because like my mom came from an abusive relationship, and it's like those people need a place to go. So like, you hook them up with clothes, and like you donate clothes to their kids, stuff like that. And I'm not talking used stuff like, oh, you got a brand new pair of kicks. They might not be, the newest like fucking Dunks or Pumas, but it's like a new pair of like decent shoes and a pair of pants,
Mhm.
stuff, just stuff like that, man. That's what I would really want to do. Like we don't
Your
do
goal is
enough.
to improve quality of life then.
Absolutely. Like we've all forgotten how to be human, and we got to start being more human to each other. That's all I want out of life.
So would it be fair to say that along with your American dream of wanting enough and being able to pursue your comedic career to provide for your family, but you would also like to be able to positively impact others and to help get their lives quicker in the direction that it should be?
Big time. I think that's what true equality is. No matter what, like if we all have the actual same opportunities, then we'll actually be able to succeed. So if I could figure out how to get some people that are on like I hate saying it, but like there's levels to life, and some people can't level up because they're stuck. I would want to figure out a way to help those people just get to a level where they could be comfortable.
I agree because, like, honestly, like even coming from like high school and stuff, like the average person, like if you think about it, like take it for us for like coming out of high school. School didn't teach us about credit, taxes, or anything else.
No.
I guarantee you if they taught us like straight up like what credit cards were, what was credit and everything else, I guarantee you the debt wouldn't be as much as it is now.
Yeah.
Clean.
That's why I waited to go to college. Like I just graduated college a year ago because I was
Congrats,
like,
sir.
oh,
Congrats.
thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you, Dad. I homeschooled myself. Let's not go nuts.
Hey, it doesn't matter. Hey, no. What you look, I know you may view it in that way, but as someone on the exterior, let me tell you, that is something that deserves to be congratulated and deserves to be applauded. You put in the work, right? When you didn't have to, you made a choice that said, I want to better myself, and you went and did it. So you deserve congratulations and applause for that. So good shit, my boy.
Thank you. But I always looked at like the school, like, you know, when like the counselors would come talk to you and they would be like, what are you going to do for college? And it's like, I remember asking my college counselor, I was just like, I'd love to go. How do I pay for it without this interested loan? And he's like, how do you know about interest? I would go, why are you not telling me about the interest? Like, dude, you should be talking about that. Like my mom being a single mom, she's the one that taught me all that. She was like, I want you to go to college, but I want you to do it on your own terms. Like, don't end up like your friends that are going to school to be like a TV writer, $1,000 in debt, and they're working like a minimum wage job. It's just not sustainable. And I'm like, I would rather work now, figure out what I like in those different worlds of actually being in the workforce, and then find something. But that's what I would gladly put myself into debt to. Like if it's something I know is going to work out, then I'll put myself in debt.
That makes sense. That's the smart way of going about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think you have a excellent point when you say, hey, we're not necessarily preparing people enough to be into the society that we have.
Not at all.
We more so try and prepare you for the society that we want than what is actually reality, and that is a very big problem. I know it does a disservice to a lot of people. Like you said, a lot of people don't even fully understand how taxes or interest rates and stuff work. I mean, in my job that I do, my Monday through Friday, we deal with some people that sign up for financing contracts in there, and you would be astounded. The average person would be astounded how many people sign up for financing and stuff, do not read the terms, don't even understand the terms. If it like, because these places that we deal with that are signing them up, they read the contracts to them too. These people still don't understand it. They will just sign their life away. I think it is part of that is, hey, we failed them earlier in life because we didn't teach them how serious it is that you have to pay attention to these things.
Yeah. Like, and like fucking Louis used to have a joke about this. I know Louis C.K. got in trouble and stuff like that, but
well, look, man, I'm gonna just say it was bad what he did because you shouldn't be forcing people to watch you jerk off. But he wasn't Harvey Weinstein in this. Okay,
right.
Like he wasn't Bill Cosby in it over here. You know what I mean? He wasn't doing none of that. So,
but he has a joke where he's like, "Oh my God, honey, they're gonna take the lamp." Like people that finance shit through like Rent-A-Center and stuff, like they're gonna come, they're gonna take the lamp. Like what read the terms, my man. Read the terms.
Facts. Well, I don't want to keep it because I know you have things to do today. You've got things on your docket. But John, my man, we will have you back in because I know you're a big wrestling guy and we can talk wrestling for hours around this way. So we'll have you back in. But John, we have to thank you, sir, for coming in today and doing this interview with us. It is excellent. It was everything I was hoping it was going to be, plus more. It makes me have to I'm going to have to schedule part 2 with you because I'm not done with you. I'm going to have to pick in how your mom's gotten in your brain over the years too and what effect she has. Trust me, I was sitting over here. I was like, I got other questions, but I really want to ask about his mom. Like, I really want to. But yes, thank you very much, sir, for coming through and doing this interview with you. It's greatly appreciated here.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Could I plug some dates? When does this come
out? Of course.
Always,
man. Actually, as a matter of fact, I know the people are watching this. you guys will be seeing this. I'm going to be putting it out next week. I'm going to put out the full version, both the audio and the video. And then I'm also going to go back and rewatch it and clip some stuff up and put out individual clips. And I will get you everything, all the links to everything as soon as I put it up.
Perfect.
And I'm also going to, for those that don't know, for our Inside the Cage fans, just make sure you are checking the page too, because we also, leading up to this interview coming out next Friday, we will be putting up Mr. Torres' content that he has currently posted on his YouTube page. So make sure that you go check it out. But yes, go ahead and plug yourself, of course, Dad.
What day does this come out?
What is this? This is, so it is the 16th. So that would be we will be releasing this the 22nd, April 22nd.
22nd. Okay, if you're listening to this the 22nd, you're in the city of Chicago, come to the Logan Square Improv over in Logan Square. It's a fun little black box theater. Sunday the 24th, I'm doing crushes at this bar called Alive One. On Wednesday the 27th, I'm at Zany's Comedy Club in Old Town. The 30th, I'm going to be out in Glenwood, Illinois. So for the suburban folks out there, I'm going to be at a place called Rock Island Bistro. And let me see what other dates I have. I know how to read a calendar, I swear. I went to school for this. May 1st, I'm at the Comedy Bar, the early show. This May 7th, I'm going to be doing Don't Tell Comedy. Check out don'ttellcomedy.com for all the links. And the 22nd, I'm going to be at the Comedy Bar. The one on May 1st is kind of important to me. It's going to be the first time I'm headlining at a comedy club. So May 1st, come out to the Comedy Bar downtown, right above the Geno's East.
You need to make sure you send me those dates, because I will try and make it to that one on May 1st, most definitely. Then, dude, you're headlining it. I want to try and come out and show you some love there, man.
Hell yeah, thank you.
Hey, no, look, man, one thing that I don't have all the abilities in the world, but one thing I have an ability to do that's within my control is that there's a lot of good people out here doing things, that they're chasing their dreams. They're trying to have success doing something that they love. And the least that I can do, and when I say I care about people, is that the least I can do is support you. So you goddamn right. So yes, make sure you got to DM me those dates and stuff. I will put everything up in like multiple reminders, along with because I'm going to put your postings over a couple of days. So I will make sure I put those dates up and the venues and stuff, so then that way people can see it there too.
Sounds good to me, man. Thank you.
But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for sitting through with our interview here. We will be back with part 2 with Mr. Torres at some point. We just got to schedule it. Because like I said, I'm going to ask some questions about Mom. Because I see Mom played a big role here. I see this most definitely. But yes, thank you very much, people. And I hope we always thank you here for listening into our product. We would be nothing without you. We appreciate you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to all of our feeds. YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple, everywhere. Basically, we're there, baby. We're there.